Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so since this is a special meeting, there's no real agenda. Let everyone get settled in. Cross a little bit. Go sit down here. And I'm going to let you start first, Dave, if you'd like.
Okay, well, we are excited to be here. Thank you for having us. We appreciate you guys pulling a special meeting for us to come and, discuss the site. We're excited to give you guys some updates, tell you kind of some of our plans, and we want to address your concerns. It's very important to us, our builders' concerns. How do you want to start, Andy?
Well, I mean, we did watch the last video in January, I think it was, where concerns of our site were raised during the video after we sent the letter in good faith. Had some discussions with the town attorney over it, had a few emails back and forth. But we honestly felt it was prudent for us to come and meet with you guys and kind of just talk things out a little bit. But we took over this site approximately 2.5 years ago now. We are working to clean it up, working to revitalize it, and we're also working now very diligently to bring businesses to the area. So we do, we always want the local support as well. We never want to be adversarial. We always want to have a great working relationship with wherever we are. So that's what kind of brought us here today. We want to expel any rumors that are floating around and really try to get a better understanding as to what you guys, what your goals are and what you're looking for and how we can help, and vice versa. Because, I mean, in the last 2 years, we honestly haven't heard from anybody, which is always a concern for us. Because we took over a large piece of property. It was held by a very large corporation, employed a lot of people. When we first came in here, we did meet with the old mayor, and he had said he wanted to support us in any way possible. So we just want to continue that kind of motif going forward, especially now when we have millions of dollars invested in the site. We have how much more is to put into the site, but we can't survive without the support of Rouses Point itself.
Yeah. We need your help. We need to come together and do this as a team, and we don't have that right now. So
I understand that. It's just like you were saying. I think there's a lack of communication.
Okay.
The channels of communication have to be open. The rumors have to be put to bed. I mean, we've been told 4 different stories that what's going on, and nobody. I mean, we were told once that there's some computers in there and you're trying out the high-speed internet or whatever it is, the fiber optics. You're trying to see if they can handle what you're trying to do. And then we were told that you had robotics put in there. And now we're being told that it's because, you have a large amount of heat on it. So we don't know what's going on. I mean, we asked our local building code officer, Mr. Cooper, and he can't relay any information to us. And he works directly for us. So that's our concern. I think the lines of communication has to be open.
yes,
Because the rumors have to be snuffed out. Because
Yes.
there's local contractors that work for you that likes to spread rumors. I mean, that's where a lot of this is coming from. I mean, there's employees, there's other people that go through that facility and they see what's going on. And when they come back, and it gets back to us. This is a very small village, and we're very concerned about the residents of this village. When Pfizer left us, they left us 50% of the debt of the whole village. I mean, it's not your fault, it's nobody's fault. It's just, we need to move forward to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our residents. Because
Absolutely.
we can't expect them to pay for, say if this was a household and you had 2 incomes and now we're down to 1. It makes our job really hard, especially when the lines of communication is not open. This board will work with anybody to bring new businesses in this village. I mean, we beg people to come to Rouses Point. We have good water, we have cheap electricity, I mean, our services are outstanding.
Well, that's one of the draws that brought us to Rouses Point.
So that's my concern, and I'm sure it's mostly the board's concern.
I mean, all right, if you could go a little more depth as to your actual concerns with our site, I mean,
Well,
will probably help us out.
Our concerns are, we have codes, we have processes that have to be followed. So if you're renovating or whatever you're doing in there, you have to come get a permit from our code enforcement officer. He needs to go in and inspect the building. And he needs to inspect it while work is being done.
But we haven't done any work in that building without permits.
Was the electrical inspection done
I
on
don't
the
know.
building after the electric boilers were put in?
You'd have to ask our GC that. I don't know. I don't know, you know, it's his job to contact the building inspector. It's up to the discretion of the building inspector to show up. Whether he did or didn't, I don't know. But,
Well, that's what we're saying, the communication is not there.
you know, we apply for our permits, our demolition permit, it's applied for,
No?
we demoed.
Exactly.
We understand that.
700,000+ square feet. You know, we renovate, every time we renovate, as you're well, we apply for a permit. You know, when the permit is done, we assume that our GC is contacting you guys and communicating with you. Where it goes after that, I don't know.
And that could be potentially, again, as we talked, I think that's potentially the problem is, again, there's some communication breakdowns, whether it's between the GC or whomever, whether it's between getting building permits, electrical permits, following up on water and sewer issues or whatever, just making sure that the connections or the meters or whatever are the correct ones that are installed. Because at the same time, I mean, again, we're trying to have you ultimately as the owners comply with those things. And it's to your benefit as well. I mean, you know, we want to make sure that we're providing the services that you're entitled to. So again, it's just trying to keep, I think, the lines of communication open and who needs to contact who to get that stuff. I mean, again, Mr. Cooper should be the one, he's kind of our point guy to get, you know, just to make sure the proper permits, the inspections are done, things are up to code. We need to be able to get those things addressed and or reviewed.
We purposely use local guides to kind of avoid this situation. We assume that our local contractor is talking to your building inspector. I mean, there's a building permit posted on our door now.
Yeah, for what, office space?
Bathrooms.
Well, this isn't bathroom, Jeff.
Yeah.
Nobody up, when this deal started, nobody from your outfit has contacted me at all, no one.
Okay. We'll address that internally, and we thank you for the update.
Your contractor, the AFP has contacted me for several jobs, he's done a bit of one putting the boilers in, et cetera, et cetera. He just got a permit to put his offices and things in, which I issued to him. But I've yet to speak to anybody from your outfit.
Well, we talked one day.
What?
We talked one day.
So, are you speaking to our GC or not? I'm just trying to understand.
Nobody has contacted me.
No, GC meaning the general contractor.
Oh, general fund, yeah, I just said.
John Poisson.
AFP was, he talked to me 2 times. Once to put the boilers in, and the other one's just to put the things in there, but now, the electrical, I don't know what's going on there, we keep saying to change the electrical in it, but we're not allowed in the building, so we don't know.
Who said we changed electrical in the building?
Well, that's just like Mr. Pelkey said.
You had to
We
get
got all these rooms, people's in and
electrical
out.
permit, put the electric boilers in.
I was under the impression all permits were secured for those boilers.
Were the electric boilers installed?
Yes.
Okay.
There are electric boilers in our building now.
There is.
Yeah.
Okay, when you go to electric boiler, it used to be steam heat out of a boiler house, a separate building on site that used to heat everything. When you go to electric boiler, there should have been a permit issued from Mr. Cooper, and with that permit, there should have been an engineered study to make sure that the building has the R factor to hold the electric heat, because electric heat takes, the energy rating for electric heat is so much greater than like fuel oil or steam. You gotta make sure you have the same insulation value. So we're just trying to protect ourselves. And if we have this paperwork, the paperwork from the contractor that says that the building does meet the energy code, and.
I think all that was done.
What's that?
I think all that was done.
Well,
I'm,
The code enforcement officer should have a receipt for that then, or a paper stating that the electric boilers were up to par and stuff.
That they had electrical inspection. That way it takes the responsibility off the general contractor and puts it on an independent inspector. And
We don't disagree with that, I'd have to speak to our GC on that one to find out what steps he took with the electric boilers. I know there was an application put in to install them. I believe we even have the permits on those, because I'm just remembering what permits I saw.
well, John points out is it put
Yeah.
boilers without having the proper permit.
He's
Right.
really,
right, I
We've been really
know,
pleased with
I've
all
worked
his
with
work.
John in the past.
Yeah,
And
so-
he's very, he's a very good contractor.
Yeah,
That's why
very thorough.
I just want to make sure that we have the documentation to cover the village's assets and responsibility of what's going on. That's
Okay.
all we're asking.
Oh, so you're not sure right now whether or not it was done or not?
We have no paperwork
Okay,
at all.
Right.
okay.
okay, so we'll get the paperwork's there.
Yeah, and listen, we're not, I don't think any of us here are questioning Mr. Poisson. I mean, we all know his work.
Oh, yeah.
He's a very good contractor. Whether there's certain things that have fallen through the cracks, we just need to make sure that everything is documented, that everything's up to code, that all requirements have been met, all inspections have been done, again, just to protect everybody. So that's what we're looking for, because at least it doesn't sound like we have that information at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what information you guys have or don't have at this time, but we'll certainly follow up with it. It's fine. We have no objection to that.
Okay, so let's talk
Water
about.
meter,
What's that?
What's
water
that?
meter.
Water meter got changed? I know there was a little
The
bit
correct
of,
one,
what's that?
is it the correct one, or?
Jed, is the water meter's correct, that issue's been
I
solved?
do not know, that's
Yeah,
not,
so we need to have that examined as well, just to make sure it's, and again, we want to make sure that the correct water meter's on there, because again, whether if it's the wrong one or the right one, it may make a difference to you regarding your water usage and whatever. So we need to have somebody, or at least I would say, the representative of the village look at it, just to make sure it's the right meter that's installed.
Yeah.
Yeah, some meters are multiplied by 10, some are multiplied by 100, some are multiplied by 1,000. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But somebody from the village inspected the meter after it was installed.
The gentleman who may have been there to inspect it, I think, may not have been the one from the gentleman from the water and sewer department. So we just need to have the guy from water check that out, I believe.
Someone just came to our building to inspect our meter from the village?
They changed the water, they changed the
I think
pipes.
Mr. Poisson, I think, changed the meter.
Yeah.
And we just need to have our water guy check it out, make sure it's the right
It
meter.
was,
that's
it
in there.
was looked at by somebody,
works,
but it was
yeah.
apparently the wrong guy.
Okay.
Looked at it and told John, this is fine. So we need to have someone else now go back out there, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, if we could.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and again, if it is the wrong meter, it may behoove you to make sure we have the right one on there, to make sure it's most cost effective for you guys as well.
I will certainly
Okay, so
follow up with
let's,
John on that as well.
let's dispel the Bitcoin rumor, right? Because that's a,
Nobody
Nobody said
on this
anything.
board ever said anything about Bitcoin. Never.
That's
okay.
wrong.
Okay.
No,
Let's
that's
not-
not.
Whether it's Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or different things, it may.
Okay,
Server
so,
farm,
Server farm.
server farm,
Server farm was mentioned.
Yeah, that's
Bitcoin
what
was
we meant.
never mentioned.
server farm.
well, there's rumor all the way down to Albany about ERS has got a Bitcoin operation going on.
I don't know where that ever came.
No.
That ever came
Well,
from this board.
Because,
We said computer farm, Server farm,
server farm.
never Bitcoin, never. Never Bitcoin did that ever come out of this board meeting.
In our local law, it says in there that, you know, you can't have Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, we understand that. And in there also, it says about the server farm. So,
Yeah,
We don't know
A
if you-
server farm is defined as 3 or more interconnected computers housed in a facility.
right,
So that would mean
Well,
every.
but it says whose primary function is to perform cryptocurrency mining, data mining, or it says, or associated data processing.
Well, what is associated data processing?
Well, I don't believe in this particular ordinance there, that is defined, I don't believe.
Well, what do you guys think associated data processing is?
For me, associated data processing would be something in lines of dealing with cryptocurrency,
So, in our,
or data mining.
okay, so in our facility, we don't have any data mining or cryptocurrency.
you have a server farm.
According to what his definition is, no. So we don't have a server farm.
Again, I'm just reading the definition from our ordinance, it said, or associated data processing, and again, if it just said data, when you say associated data processing, that means associated somewhat with either cryptocurrency mining or data mining.
We're not involved in either one.
I mean, data processing, almost anything can be data processing.
Everything is data processing.
So could you explain to us, this board, what do you have?
We have racking systems, a laser-guided racking system. We have a ton of equipment still in there that we're moving around. I mean, we have over 300,000 square feet. We have testing equipment. We have a lot of items in our building that's geared towards a manufacturing facility. Even just our lift system is a $2 million system put in by Pfizer. It is a laser-guided, computer-guided system that
So
goes
are
to
you
each.
using that now?
We're trying to get it up and running.
Oh, okay.
So when we did the, right, so you know that the plan was to level the entire site down to the ground, right? And we had some great conversations with Pfizer, and some people from the area help us in allowing us to keep the three facilities that we kept, right? But because the plan was to level everything, they sent in a wholesaler, equipment wholesaler, and they started taking the guts out of there. So it needs a lot of work. Everything, all the transformers are taken out of there, and all the electrical, a lot of the electrical lines were pulled out and cut. So we're putting it all back together, right, slowly but surely. So,
And it's not an easy or quick process.
and it's
We're still
expensive.
trying to figure out which electrical lines. Let's just, I mean, we can talk bluntly with this. When Pfizer was actually running at this site, they had something like 16 megawatts of power going to that site. Okay? We had lines that were on our roof that got cut, and other buildings were cut. There was lines coming out of the ground, they were cut. We don't know where all the lines go, where they're cut. We're trying to figure that out. It's been a very difficult process as of right now. It has not been easy. And, you know, it's, again, it's because we saved the buildings. You know, we have a switch yard. We haven't even had to activate the switch yard yet. We don't even know if that works. We don't know how many things are broken over there. We just got two estimates that are so far apart from each other, we don't even know which estimate is the proper one to have the switch yard looked at and either fixed, maintained. We're not sure yet, but we're still working through it. It's almost like, okay.
Go ahead. I'll wait. I'll ask you a question after.
No, go ahead, sir.
Wouldn't it have been cheaper for you to go with the gas instead of electric boiler?
We are gonna
Install-
go, everything from here on out will be gas, right? When we put the electric boilers in, it was because we needed to heat the building in the winter. And to get the gas line to run into that property, it's gotta come through the slabs. So we gotta dig up the slab to get the gas line in. It just wasn't, it was a time sensitive thing, right?
Because of our lack of heat in our building, we had pipes burst, which hundreds of thousands of dollars has now cost us to replace. We got our CO, I mean, you guys know,
Mhm.
we were given our CO. CO was giving us, our sprinkler system works now. When they first turned on, it was a geyser, it was shooting water out all over. This is not, you know, the pipes that we're running here, they look like they're 40-something feet in the air. It's, you know, it's time consuming, and you gotta figure out where everything is burst. It's not an easy process, but we're working through it. And we're trying to get everything so that we can bring jobs to here, so we can bring business here. That's, you know, why we're in this business.
We'd like to see that. Yeah.
That's-
Put a lot of people working for you.
We're
A
trying.
lot of people on the
It's-
facility.
It's coming. It is coming. There is going to be significant, we are going to bring significant jobs back to Rouses Point. Okay? And so that's why we were confused about the whole Bitcoin rumor, because there is no jobs with that, right? We're not interested in that. But what we are interested in is making this, making the facility, bringing the glory back to this town. We have that opportunity to do that. We really do. And we're at this every single day, talking to a whole host of different kinds of companies that could potentially come here and change, really be a game changer. And we're not going to get Pfizer back, but 500 jobs is not out of the question in the next 5 years. It's a possibility. But we got to start somewhere. And so we're trying to get the facility ready for, you know, probably 5 or 6 different companies that we're in good communication with, we're in negotiations with, we're trying to cut deals with them, and every one of them is bringing jobs. And I know, Dale, I know your jobs is very important to you, and, you know, we're...
Very important to all of us.
All of us.
All of us.
All of us.
Right.
And
And it's,
I think we
This
also
whole
know
building.
it's a gradual process. I mean,
And we understand that.
a lot of us, you know, lived through, you know, base closing and the redevelopment of the base and how long that took. And it's a gradual process. It just doesn't happen overnight. So I think we understand that. I think the big thing is making sure we have good lines of communication open, that people are talking, that people, you know, understand what's going on, that people, you know, are applying for the proper permits, that things are getting followed through on. And I'm not blaming you guys, I'm just saying, I think that leads to a lot of these rumors coming out and leads to a lot of this miscommunication. And, I mean, quite frankly, Andrew and I have talked a lot over the last, just even like the last month, you know, since we started talking about the, you know, the real estate and some of this other stuff. I mean, we've talked a lot, and that's good. I mean, so there's communication going on. I know I can pick up the phone, I can call Andrew, I can talk to Andrew about certain things, and he'll get back to me with answers or whatever. So, again, it's building up, I guess, building up those relationships and or developing those relationships so we don't have these kind of problems going forward where there's miscommunication, we don't know what's going on. And or if like I say, Mr. Cooper needs to contact somebody, okay, who's he contact? Is it John Poisson? That's great. Is it somebody else? Okay. Just so that there's some lines of communication that if we have a question, who do we call? Who do we contact? What do we do?
I can honestly tell you guys, none of you have reached out to us.
We have
We don't
people-
have your number.
We have people in place that's supposed to do that for us. We have an administrator, we have a building code officer.
No, our phone, as the attorney just told you, my phone is always open. I
If
respond.
somebody has your number,
Our number is public. Everyone should have our number. It's right on our website. It goes right to us. We're not shying away from communication at all. In fact, we encourage it.
yeah, that's what
Because
we're
we
saying.
honestly, I tell you point blank.
We're
We
open for
we
more
lost-
communication.
We lost the bid on a very large tenant. Okay, Dave can go into that for you. And that one hurt us. It was a manufacturing plant.
100 jobs. $145 million investment into Rouses Point, and 100 jobs. And we probably spent five months getting to the point where we were down to us and 1 or 2 other facilities in upstate New York. And we got a call 2 weeks ago. We're out of the running. Well, what happened? What happened was he watched the board meeting. The CEO of this company watched the board meeting, okay, the dysfunction at the board meeting, the arguing and the yelling at the board meeting, and he says, I want no part of Rouse's Point. Okay, now, that's damaging, and that's why I'm
Our big
really
push
hoping
today.
that we can get this together, because we can build something great there if we work together, right? So, it matters what happens here. It matters what's,
Exactly.
right? It matters what's,
His opinion, that tenant's opinion is that Rouse's Point is not pro-business. That was the result of the call that we got. And I think, you know, we're just landlords, that's all we are. That's devastating to us. It's one of the reasons why we pushed so hard for this meeting here. To understand that we need your support, and this is one of the things that literally came up. You guys yelling at each other, you know, you're talking about having to get something for your power. It's, when they start hearing hurdles, you know, they start looking
Okay,
at other areas.
there was no hurdles in that meeting. The meeting was, we wanted jobs for our power. So that shouldn't have shied him away one bit.
It's the tone of the meeting. That's what drives these businesses away. If they see that you guys are working together as opposed to arguing, they go, okay, we can work with these people. But when there's a back and forth and there seems to be a confrontation, no one's going to want to deal with that. Look, Long Island City lost Amazon because we have politicians who got on the horn screaming and yelling about what kind of jobs are going to go there. They're tech jobs. And the people in this area are not tech people. So who's getting those jobs? People from outside. We literally lost Amazon in Long Island City. Long Island City was exploding in revenue. Restaurants were moving in to cover that. Rentals were being built. It was creating thousands of jobs. But you have a situation where someone starts pushing back, this is not wanted here, and as soon as the business gets that impression, Amazon up and left. They're the second largest company in the world. They didn't want to deal with it. So, look, we're not here to point fingers. We're here in good faith effort to really work with you guys here. And we want to work with you here. And we want to establish the lines of communication with you. And we'll take care of, we'll talk to our GC about following up with the permitting, and I don't know that it was done or not done. But all of you guys should have our numbers. If you want, Dave will give you his at the end of the meeting. You know, but your attorney can always reach out to me. It's fine with me.
Yeah,
But
that's
we
all we're
just-
asking
we
for, is
just-
communication and,
now you could call us. I mean, I've given my card out to everybody at least 3 times over the last 2 years. So you have my card. Jed knows how to get a hold of us.
But I mean, if they're watching our board meetings and we have a disagreement, it's because we're asking questions and we're being told different answers at every meeting. We just want to get to the bottom of what's going on. That's all.
And that's why
I
we
think
called this meeting.
dispel any rumors, I don't think there's any question that Rouse's Point is pro-business.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't think there's any question about that. But we have codes and we have zoning and we have things that have to be complied with, just like everybody else does. Every other
Sure,
town,
yeah.
Long Island City does, everybody does. And we just trying to make sure that our codes are being followed and that our zoning is being followed and
exactly.
the building, New York State building code is being followed. We do have a responsibility to make sure those things are being followed. To say that's anti-business is not accurate.
No.
No,
No,
we have,
it's
we're
not
not,
accurate. I don't agree with that.
I don't think it is either, but
No.
I'm saying that perception is out there.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
You don't think you don't think that the perception is that Rouse's Point is a difficult place to do business?
No, no.
Okay.
We would, this board would bend over backwards to get jobs and business in this village. We're trying to revitalize our downtown. I mean, we have a planning and zoning board that works hard trying to get, things done around here, to make streamline for businesses to come in here. And I
Will
just,
you support grants? Will you support us, working with us to try to go after some grants? That we need the village to apply, be the applicant of the grant?
I don't know if we can legally.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
to answer that question, I think we'd be certainly interested in
We'd
looking
look
at that
at
and
it.
examining it.
Definitely,
And
we'd
if
look at it.
and as soon as we can, I think we'd be willing to do that. And again, I'm not saying we can't, I'm just saying we need to examine what you're asking us to do. But if it's possible, I think we'd be willing to do that.
We don't want the perception out there that we're hard to get along with, just because we have a disagreement.
Right, can I ask you a question? Have you asked us to do that or no?
I have not yet, no.
Okay.
But I'm looking at some areas for us to get into that space, and some of these requests have to come from the village.
Okay, yeah, we'd be more than willing to examine them if we're able to cooperate. Listen, I mean, you being successful is gonna make us successful.
Exactly.
So, I think, again, the perception that we don't wanna work with you or we're trying to be anti-business is not accurate.
That's not accurate.
So,
And-
if.
And we don't want this to reflect with our county people, our state representatives. I mean, Gary Douglas is trying to work hard to bring business up here and get this border open. I mean, we don't want them to think that the 5 of us on this board is against any business coming to Rouses Point.
Everybody is bending over backwards to help us. The IDA and Gary and Sue and the Empire State
Yeah.
Development. I mean, I'm not kidding you. They're helping us. They're really behind what we're trying to do here. So, and you guys are you're the final piece of the puzzle that we need your support. And if we can get that,
We haven't given you any reason.
Yeah, you've never come to us before.
We've never given you a reason. The only one that's been keeping us up to date is our mayor. And when he, when we asked him a question, it's, we got 3 different answers within 2 months. I mean, what do you expect us to do?
To answer your question, I don't think there's any question, and I think the board is responding, that we certainly want to cooperate in any way we can.
Definitely.
All right, well,
We have a lot to offer.
We're not saying that that's what you're actually doing. It's just, it was the perception by a possible tenant. And it happened to be a manufacturing tenant. So we want to bring that to your attention. Look, just like we hear the rumors, we came here to address them. We would honestly expect you to tell us the rumors, and we're going to do the same. So when we're in Albany, or we're dealing with another person or another company, and we're talking about it, and they're voicing that, then you know what? We're going to tell you guys about it, whether it's true or not. But maybe there's something you can do to expel the rumor too. Maybe we can try to work together to bring the business in, and you'll tell them, hey, look, we're going to support you guys. We're going to work with you. Because if they saw that on the videos, hey, we met with Rouses, we met with ERS, we're going to support them, we want them to bring business here. If they saw things like that, we wouldn't be in this position.
Exactly.
That's what we're trying to do. We're not accusing anybody here today of anything. We're just here to work with you guys.
And that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think,
And like we said, communication is the best thing. You talk to us, we can talk to you. We have not sat down and had a meeting like this, I don't think ever, with you guys.
you may have come to some of our meetings before.
there
I
you
don't know if
Yeah,
maybe
you might
have
have
been
come to our
some-
meetings.
The ER's has been here before, it's been a while,
yeah,
needless to say.
of course.
Yeah, when we
But-
first transacted,
Right.
we sat down with that current administration, and we spoke about a lot of different things.
And again, we know it's a gradual process, and it's not, usually not something that happens overnight, but I think at least what I'm hearing from the board, certainly, they certainly want to work with the ERS, and if we can help in any way, I think we want to make sure we do that.
Okay, let's talk about the power a little bit, right? So you, obviously, what are your concerns about power?
The power, my biggest concern is the high-density load service. If there's I understand the server farm reflects back to the cryptocurrency and data, or mining.
It seems to.
Okay. But the data mining part of it, the definition, because we hear this from our residents. They're concerned about their light bills.
Yes.
Because when there's a high-density load and we have to pass that, our light bills are generated with usage, demand, we have a wheeling charge, so there's a formula that's calculated. So every time that the demand, if the demand goes out of this world, our light bills in the village goes up, is part of that formula that has to be calculated.
Yes.
So everybody, the older residents in this village, which a lot of them are concerned about, their light bills are going up, and, you know, we need to protect them, and that's all we're doing. So if we don't have an answer for them, how does that make us look, you
Okay, well,
know?
so at what point of power consumption do the ratepayers' bills get affected?
Well, it all depends. Every month, it's calculated monthly.
Okay, you guys did a power study. You commissioned a power study.
Yeah.
And Steve, hopefully Steve will get a chance to talk. If Steve's here, Steve was instrumental in that power study. So he has answers for what kind of power consumption affects ratepayers. Right? So, I just want to get comfortable with, you know, because depending on who comes in, they're going to use different amounts of power.
You understand?
The robotics thing is part of this solar company that we've worked on for months to try to get here. They have 15 robots in there, right? And then an assembly line, such, you know, a big, huge arm that is welding stuff. They're big power users. And we've got these are the kinds of people that we think can change the village. So as we go out into the marketplace to try to attract these tenants, we have to make sure that we have an understanding of what's available, right? When Pfizer was here, and they were using, whatever, 15 or 16 megawatts, right?
They used to use 50% of the power of the village.
Okay.
So,
Where were the bills then? I mean, is that, if I go to 15 megawatts, are you saying I'm blowing up everybody's electric bill? I mean, over the next 5 years, if I got to 15, and I got 6 companies and the total megawatts needed was 50 megawatts.
it all
How
depends on
many
our,
people you got working for you?
on our hydro allocation.
50?
But he's talking about power too. that's
Yeah,
the
but,
thing.
right, we just want to be clear. No matter what company goes in our building, our power usage is going to go up.
Right,
Right.
we understand that.
We understand.
You know, we by accident left the lights on in one of the buildings, and our electric bill went up last month. And we just realized it while we were walking through today. You know, we have 480 volt bulbs in our warehousing.
So we don't want you using 15 megawatts and having 20 people working there.
That's great. I couldn't agree more.
You know?
I couldn't agree more, because look, we want to make an impact here. I mean, that's why we're here, you know? And that means I'm not making an impact if I'm not bringing high-skilled labor and jobs to this village. I'm worthless to you guys. So that's our focus. I mean, we're very focused on the jobs.
We have a lot of power available, and we just, when it comes to our hydro allocation, we gotta make sure we have the jobs to match the hydro allocation for jobs for power. And
Is there a requirement for jobs?
We've
What's your
been,
hydro allocation?
yeah, for every 50 jobs, you can petition for a half a megawatt of hydropower.
Okay.
But luckily, they only reduced us a little bit so far. I mean, who knows what's gonna happen in the future here?
It reduced you because you're not using your allocation?
Right, because we're losing, right, and they wanna send it somewhere else.
don't blame
So
'em.
you can't blame them.
So our increasing use of power actually helps the village.
It does, as long as the demand does not over accelerate of what. See, when Pfizer was here, in the wintertime, the residents has electric heat. Their electric heat kept us at a balanced load. And in the summertime, when the electric heat was off, Pfizer would start their chillers and they would keep our load at a nice, and the power authority liked that. They liked a nice even load. So in the wintertime now, our loads are going up. In the summertime, we have nothing.
plummeted.
We're flatlining. So it's all calculated in a formula that's, you know,
So you need us to use your power.
we do at the right, as long as it's within the guidelines of not exceeding
And where, all right, and how much power would even out Rouse's Point so you don't lose your allocation?
Well, we haven't, you know, we've lost a little bit, but we haven't lost the whole, our whole allocation.
No, I'm just trying to understand, because, you know, right now, we don't have, you know, any real usage of power. You know, we obviously have electric heaters in there, which you guys are aware of. And we have, you know, our 480 volt lights in our warehousing, which I'm sure you're aware of. Those huge warehousing bulbs that take half an hour just to heat up. But once we start putting companies in there, they're gonna be using power.
Definitely.
You know, at what point, you know, does it even out? If we use 3 megawatts, is that an issue? If we use 5, is that an issue? At what point does it start negatively affecting Rouse's Point, the villagers?
We're not saying that,
It may never.
it may never, as
Right.
long as there's jobs to come with it,
Yeah, it may
like you
never.
said, if you get 50 jobs, you get half a megawatt.
So if they take our hydro allocation and cut it in half right now, we can petition to get it back as long as we have the jobs to show that we can get the hydropower back at cheaper power.
But you have an allocation now.
Right.
What's the allocation?
I don't know if I can reveal that.
13.8.
Mr. Letourneau?
Yeah.
13.8.
13.8.
How much are you using?
I don't know what last month was, I don't know, it was like 12,000 or something like that, I'm not really sure.
So out of the 13.8, you're using how much?
I think it was like 12,000, about, I don't know.
So you have 1.8 megawatts that's not being used?
KW,
I'm sorry?
KW is the mail,
Oh, you're talking about kilowatts as opposed to megawatts.
KW is the mail.
Does a lot.
So you have 13 megawatts of unused power. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, we're allocated 13.8 in hydropower. We probably, last month, he's saying we hit maybe 12
megawatts.
megawatts.
Oh, okay.
It's KW, it's KW.
It's kilowatts, not megawatts.
We're at, last month was,
Jason,
During the winter, we were going between 9.5 to about 12.3 megs. Because we check every month, every week we go to our substation, we do our substation check. And just, we go look at the power authority's meter just to see what we got, just to see where we're at. I went there today because they have a problem with their meter reading. So I had to work with them and I looked at it and today was 8.25 megs. So it's a little bit warmer, so it's gone down, so it varies, we don't keep track of it, that would be coming from the power authority, but just to give you a rough idea, and it's,
when we get a bill, it's from the power authority, what we do.
Okay.
So in the winter, obviously, it sounds like it's gonna be more, but in the summer, it's significantly less. And that's why with Pfizer would kick in and with their children, to kind of balance it.
It balances
in the
everything out.
summertime, watching it, it's been between 4 to 6 megs, depending, you know, with the air conditioners or, you know, and just a different thing, but that's rough, just to give you a rough
Well, no,
idea.
that's why we like these discussions, 'cause we don't know.
Right.
We have no, I don't know what your allocation is. And I know when Pfizer was here, they're using 16 megawatts, you know, at that point, I'm sure your allocation was, you know, 30, 40, maybe even 50 megawatts.
No, it wasn't, but the light bills were, you know, we had supplemental power, and we had different ways of buying it.
Okay.
Unfortunately now, it's more expensive than, so we try to use as much of our hydropower as we can, because it keeps cheaper rates. I mean, unfortunately, what drives up the hydropower is, like I said, with this formula that you calculate on how much of a demand that you have at one time. So that's why we had a moratorium on electric boilers, because they're a high demand unit that comes on and sucks a lot of energy. And once you stamp that high energy level, that's what you pay for the whole month. It doesn't go back down. So whatever your high stamp is, that's what it is. And that's all we're concerned about, because we're concerned on, we have to pass this on to our residents.
You understand that?
So you see where we're coming from? I mean,
Absolutely.
so that's all we're, you know, we just,
But we don't have any hard data on consumption versus rate increases,
No,
versus, and so I'm sure we're talking about a balancing act between the potential $5 a month in increased, your increased electric bill versus 35 jobs, right? Which is,
it just, if they do reduce our hydro allocation, we want to have the ammunition to petition them to get it back.
But the only way they would reduce your allocations if you're not using it.
Right.
Okay. What we would like to know is how much you're not using.
well,
I'm sure there's a study on that, on how much you're not using.
I mean, we just shot around some rough numbers.
Yeah, some rough numbers. Yeah, we're using almost the whole 13 megawatts during the winter months because of the electric heat load. And whatever addition is coming on with what you guys are doing, that's why we're very careful about what's coming about. You know what I'm saying? And that's all we're looking for.
So it sounded like what Jason said, like it was on 9.5, Jason, or something.
Today was 8.3, 8.3, 8.4, something like that. You know, but I've seen it down to 4, 6 in the summertime. You know, it's summertime's low, and it's less than half of what we use. Most of the, you know, for probably two or three of the months.
okay, so we're right now, as it stands today, we're capable of about 3.5 megawatts into the facility. That would be our maximum based on everything that's got torn out and everything we've been able to put back together again. For us to increase that, for us to be able to provide more power than 3.5 megawatts, it would take several $100,000 worth of investment into the property, you know, into the
Switch yard, into the building itself.
Right.
Unfortunately, they just cut the lines right off
Yeah.
because they're just going to level everything.
Yeah, that's,
That's water over the bridge now. There's
yeah,
nothing
we
you can do.
can't go back and.
No.
and-
But your
and-
substation that's in building 25 or 27, it's only so big. Like you say, what is it, 3 megawatt that you have into the facility right
Well,
now?
it could, the equipment internally can handle that much.
Up to 3 megs.
Right, so if
Without
I'm
our
out talking to one of the companies, you know, and we're very concerned about, we're concerned enough about this. You know, this is the power, I've got a year's worth of power from a metal fabricating company in Minnesota that's going to expand. They're gonna go to Texas or they're gonna come to New York. I'd like to have it because I know it's 50 jobs. But I also wanna know what power they're using, right? So my point is that I'm concerned about this too. You know, I need to be able to come to you guys, here's a company, here's what their power consumption will be, and here's the jobs they're bringing, here's the type of jobs they're bringing. So I want you guys to know that, you know,
What
we're,
is their consumption for the year?
what?
I said, what is their consumption for the year?
Well, I don't have the years, I have their largest month was 115 kilowatt hours, 115,000.
Okay, so if they bring 50 jobs in, he said you can get half a megawatt of power, so that should,
That's if they take our allocation away from us, which it hasn't yet, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but this is good, because this is exactly the kind of discussion we need to have, both you need to have and we need to have, to make sure that we can provide you the, you know, level of services that you need to attract these businesses.
We have a lot to bring to the table. So all we need to do is sit down and talk.
We're
We really
all-
do.
We
I
are
mean-
all for the communication,
yeah, that's all we wanted from,
you know.
from the get-go.
We are talking to, from warehousing companies to baby carriage companies, I mean, you name it, we're speaking to them. You know, the manufacturing facilities, they're all gonna be high-tech manufacturing. It's not gonna be labor-intensive manufacturing. Now, there'll be ancillary jobs, shipping, you know, and the like, but, you know, for a brand-new state-of-the-art factory, I I mean, you can watch the GM commercials, they're all robots.
Right. Yep.
It's not 500 people in a line anymore, spot welding.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
But that's also
And
the
we
way the
understand
world has
that.
gone.
We understand that, yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're, you know, addressing these issues, and we want to make sure that, you know, we're following your rules and your legislation that you guys have passed. We can certainly assure you that we will never allow Bitcoin mining or cryptocurrency to go into our facility. So it's not going to happen.
Right.
Well, that's nice to hear.
You
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
I mean,
But I gotta tell you though, if a bank is looking to move into our building, we're gonna talk to them, and we want your support. Because banks are great tenants, and they're great to have banks in your village.
we have
They
a,
promote a lot.
we have a lot of power available, and if it's done the right way, it could be available. You know, our substation was built for Pfizer, and unfortunately, when they left us, now we shut half of it off.
You get that? Look, we're not Pfizer.
No, we understand that,
Yeah.
but we just want you to know the capacity that we have.
Oh, yeah, look,
And we're willing to, we'd like to see the whole 80 acres developed up there. There's nothing more that would, I mean, it brings jobs, it brings housing, it brings a whole different marketing to this North Country. And unfortunately, Plattsburgh is full, so they gotta migrate north eventually. Right or wrong, I mean, the border's here.
oh, we hope so.
I mean, we have plenty of water. I mean, we have a good wastewater system. I mean, a lot of electricity. Let's do it. But there's nobody on this board that is negative toward business. We just want to make sure that everybody is putting a proper paperwork and we're doing the right thing.
Oh, we don't do any, we didn't do any demolition or construction without the proper permit being issued. We demoed for over a year and a half. I mean, you guys are well aware of that.
Yeah.
Hired a lot, and it's not like we came in and just trucked in people. We hired locals. We tried to hire as much local labor as we could.
So ERS and ERSI, they're two different companies, right?
Yes. One's our remediation company, one is the real estate
So
company.
are they owned by the same people?
No, they are not.
So we're getting you guys' word that you're gonna support, you're behind us, and you're supporting business in our effort to bring the business back to town.
Definitely.
Yes.
And we don't want to see any negativity. I mean, if we have a disagreement on our board, I mean, it's just because it's miscommunication.
Well, then we want to open up the lines of communication with at least ERS and the board. And I would.
Definitely, that's what we've been wanting right along.
And I would certainly ask that all of you take Dave's number down. The attorney's always free to contact me. I think David would be a great point person for you guys to speak to. I know Dave is making an effort to talk to your mayor here. He's been very helpful with us. We even sent letters to you guys just to give you an update. And we just want to make sure that we're always communicating with you guys thoroughly to really benefit both of us. You know, if that site's successful, it can only bring benefits to Rouses Point.
Definitely.
Yeah,
We agree.
definitely.
Not going to get a disagreement on that.
Okay. Steve, do you want to make any comments?
No, I mean, I think in terms of power allocation in that specific study, I think that's why I'm here, but Brian hit the nail on the head. It's an incredibly complicated thing to figure out in advance. Super easy to figure out once everybody uses all their power. But what we did back in spring 2019 was to try to answer some of the questions about power in terms of like, what does a specific load do to this system? And I don't believe the allocation has changed since 2019. I think it's the same. But the study that was done was to look at a 4 megawatt load and according to PLM, and they used what's called a 95% load factor, which is basically a consistent load. So think, refrigeration or, something like that, which is just straight use of electricity at 95% all the way through January, all the way to December. What they found was that it was actually pretty advantageous for the village that a 4 megawatt additional load wouldn't have any financial impact over the course of the year. What it may have is additional increases during particular months like January and July, where people are either using electric heat substantially or air conditioners substantially, and then it wouldn't have such a big impact on the shoulder seasons, and it would average out so that it would not impact the residents hardly at all. In other words, you were mentioning the kind of the room, the gaps that there are, what you're actually using, what the allocation is. That's that gap. That's what it's kind of taking up and figuring out. We also asked them to do a 12 megawatt load. Like, what would that look like? That raises rates on an average. This is an average, so people that use a lot more are going to see go up more. People that have smaller homes, use heat less, it's going to go up less. But the average across the course of 12 months is an increase of about $7.50 per resident. And the interesting piece about that is it's, again, really hard to figure out, but what fascinates me actually is how that really is a better scenario when it's almost a high density load, when it's consistent, as you were mentioning, Brian, about Pfizer. That makes things a lot better for the residents because things are a lot smoother. Whereas if you have a factory that ramps up at 7 a.m., uses a whole bunch of electricity, shuts down at 3, that can be on those shoulder seasons, or I'm sorry, in like the January and July, that can be a lot harder to kind of mitigate or address with the residents. It can move around a lot more. The benefits of an additional 4 megawatt is the potential for the village to receive somewhere in the neighborhood of an additional 6 figures in the electric fund. Low sixes is what they say. For a 12 megawatt load, again, depending on the load factor and a number of other conditions that were assumed in the formula, it can be as high as $500,000 to the village. There's like this additional benefit, even though the difficult thing that the board has to wrestle with is somebody on Smith Street is going to be paying $7.50 more potentially per month in those scenarios. So there's a bit of a balance in trying to figure that out. The other piece is, and I think you touched upon it, this people call it Power for Jobs. It's the Economic Development Hydro Allocation, which is that 5 megawatts that a business can basically work with the village and apply for. And that's a possibility in this scenario. And what that does is that brings additional revenue to the village. But ultimately, over the course of that 5 megawatts, in addition to, so if it goes from 13.8 to 18.8, you don't see those increases for the residents because that power is being used by the business and not the residents. And so that you have that gap, you have that space. That's a really helpful thing, especially in the short term. And that gets business going, that gets jobs created, that gets an economy kind of jump started, and then it kind of grows from there. The other thing, and I believe Tom Batha and I, former Mayor Batha and I, had spoken at substantial length about a community in central New York called Frankfurt. In 2019, and I can forward you guys the article, but in 2019, Tractor Supply Company built a distribution center there. And they did something with the Public Service Commission that is somewhat described as a carve-out of that business. What they wanted to do is make sure that their entry into this community wasn't going to negatively affect the residents. And so what they're able to do is carve out that section of property. It can't be specific to a business. So this was more or less an industrial park. but they ultimately got their own allocation separated out from the, I guess, village of Frankfurt. That was $170 million investment, and that came along with, at the very beginning, 250 jobs, which has since grown to 300 and change. And so that's certainly an opportunity that the village can consider, like looking at, you know, or that ERS and the village could consider together, looking at a potential carve-out, which is, frankly, from what I'm hearing, it isn't necessary right now, but just know that that's something down the road, if there's expansion or opportunity for those large employers that come in, or those power users that are going to make that kind of like high-tech jobs that are always going to be high-paying. Those are the things that really matter. But one of probably the final thing that I think is interesting about this meeting is that, as Brian and Dale and Benny have said, and Jed, that this is power is the #1 resource the village has, and has to be protected and mitigated, like, very carefully. You know, and that's what Brian is doing today, is really making sure that we're being careful. But it's also a finite resource for ERS, in that they can only grow and develop as much as those substations allow power to come through. And so that's something that they will have to manage as well. So if they're going to unload their 5 megawatts on one company that's going to use one building, and then they still got 75 acres to figure out what to do with, that doesn't play well either. That doesn't work. So I think both of you working together, managing a resource, are going to work out pretty well.
Thanks for that. That's true.
I've got a question for you when it comes to the Frankfurt example.
Yeah.
When they carved that out, so the company, so that development had a separate allocation,
Yeah.
did they lose revenue for the village from selling the power? Because I don't want to lose revenue going into the village for the sale of power.
Yes and no. So the village still provides that power. It's just allocated, a section of it is just allocated to that industrial park. There is a cost to it, and I would have to look. I can send you the studies. I don't know them offhand, but there is, you do lose revenue, but it may be worth it depending on the balance.
Okay.
Right, depending on the jobs you bring.
But depending on the jobs you bring, depending on, you know, what type of, like, how much work do you have to do? And in Frankfurt, I guess maybe I should have looked. I don't know if their power's buried or not. In Rouses Point, we know that 95% of it is. It's amazing foresight to have done that, and it mitigates a lot of daily maintenance and operational, just makes it operationally efficient all the way through. So that's something we'd probably look at with that community and just see what their usage is and how that may work.
Yeah, because I don't want to sacrifice. I want to keep the rates low like everybody
Yeah.
else's, but I don't want to sacrifice the revenue going into the village as well. For the electric
Exactly.
department.
And you have a copy of my analysis and interpretation of that study, and then I've worked with some attorneys and a few other folks that were also able to offer some insight, which I reiterated in that analysis. And so, I mean, your options are do nothing, which is, in the very short term, probably the best move. The second part is to look at a rate change. If you come into a situation where you just have, you know, not a lot of operational expense, but a lot of revenue coming in, that's not recommended generally. And I don't think, and the attorneys that I've spoke with, they said that they don't know that that's ever been done before. You know, and the other option is to invest, which, you know, you guys know there's like 300 acres on the north side of town that really has limited power options, and those are some ways where you could take this project and generate that electric fund, increase that fund, and then reinvest that in the expansion, in creation of additional resources in the community and another piece of property. So those are ways to make that work. And just for the numbers, as you think about that, I had followed that rabbit hole too with former Mayor Batha, and it came out to about a $3 million investment to bury lines and put in a substation on that northern part of town to develop that piece. So just as you do the back of the napkin math, you can use that number.
I also heard mentioned once that there's some sort, if we have enough revenues, there's some sort of rebate program we could do for the retired people.
We didn't go that far. Again, the rebates are not necessarily recommended. It's possible, but, you know, it's one of those things, if you have to stop them, people start counting on them and then you have to stop it for some reason, it becomes very difficult to do that politically. I'm gonna say it out loud. You're really better off reinvesting in the community in the short term, and long term, and just keeping the rates. Again, they're among the lowest, if not the lowest in the nation. And rebating that is probably a difficult thing to
Yeah, because they're already,
yeah.
it's not like nice cents rates.
So what you're saying, with a rate increase, you'd have to petition the PSC.
Yeah,
That hasn't been done since 1982
right.
in Rouses Point. I mean, the people before us always kept the rates where they are because we're doing it for the residents. And we're comfortable. We're making a living and we're comfortable. So that's, you just can't just raise the rates like I'm saying. You have to petition the PSC, you gotta have reasons, and it takes quite a long time to do that. So it's not like we're gonna make money like overnight. It just doesn't happen. So we have to protect our assets that we have now. So
That's why we're here, to work with
Before we
you,
used to have a
maximize the
supplemental
asset.
power.
I'm
We never
sorry?
had a supplemental power before, now we do,
Oh.
or incremental power. And that's put a burden on the taxpayers, or the electric customers.
anything over 13.8, we have to go into supplemental. So that's the higher, you know, we buy it on the market through the municipal electric, and that's where we, you know.
Unless you increase your allocation.
Right. And we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place too, because we don't want to lose our allocation. We've been very fortunate to keep what we have, because I think the Alcoa plant, they lost their allocation when they closed up in Messina?
Yeah.
In Messina, they lost it, because I talked to our past engineer about this, and he was concerned that they lost their allocation up there, and for somehow, another factory came in and they petitioned the power, and they got it back. So they're very fortunate, and we're fortunate that we've been reduced a little bit, because we used to be over 14, I think it was 14.2, maybe 14.8, I don't know. But now we're at 13, so, you know, they have a supply, they want to send it, they want to make sure they're getting paid for it, so.
We understand that.
We're kind of under the wire, and we like it. We want to keep it cheap, because if they drop our allocation down, then we have to buy on the market. Guess what happens to the rates?
What is the rate on the market? Do you have any idea?
No, that's in a formula calculated also.
Steve, thanks for that information.
What else?
Guys have any other questions for us?
So do you have a problem with the water guy, the supervisor of the water plant, and the supervisor of the guy that changes the meter and stuff, to go up and change the, look at the meter and
Just
stuff?
check.
We don't have any objection, but I do want to touch base with our general contractor first, and then we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Okay.
and your GC can reach out to our person, and that's fine too.
We also want to make sure that our GC is following all proper rules as well, so
And we're not,
I want to get to the bottom of that first, too.
yeah, and we're not trying to characterize or cast that person in a bad light. We just want to make sure everything is being complied with. You know, the inspections are getting done, the follow-ups are getting done, or at least we have the ability to do that.
That's understandable, but we do want to make sure that our
You like
GC
that?
is certainly,
We like to have the
Following,
documentation that, you
all
know,
the
covers
rules.
us, you know, when people ask us a question, we know, because Mr. Cooper is responsible for having this paperwork in his files, and if we ask for them, he has to produce them.
I want to certainly follow up with our general contractor on that.
Yeah, we obviously would be very surprised if everything's done.
But if it is, we'll certainly take the necessary steps.
I'm sure that's just something that got misguided or misled or somehow, I don't know, but John does a nice job. I've worked with him in the past, and he's very reputable.
That's why we use it.
Yeah.
Plus his use of local labor. That's one of our requirements. Yeah, I mean, we're here if you want to ask us any other questions.
I'm all set.
How do we feel? You feel productive meeting? You feel like this
Yeah,
is a productive meeting?
Oh, yeah,
I
definitely.
mean,
I think it was an excellent meeting. I think just
just opening communication was
yeah,
great.
discussing the issues. And again, just even discussing some of this electrical usage and or availability, I think was certainly important for you guys to hear this, so you guys understand what we're looking at or why we may be concerned about some of these other different kinds of uses that could be out there.
Mhm.
No, I thought it was very good. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
Well,
us.
thank you for having us.
Yep.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And, Dave, definitely give them your numbers, so this way they can reach out to you directly.
Jake, can you circulate my phone number to the group? That'd be awesome.
I have your card.
Do you have my card? That's great. You ready?
Does anyone else have any questions?
Anyone else?
Any questions from the room?
Mr. Cooper, do you have any questions?
No, you covered it pretty well, Brian.
Jason?
I'll tell you what, working with
Do you have any questions?
JFP is really
No,
pretty good.
I just think if we keep the communications open, because you know as well as I do,
I'll take one of your
look,
cards.
we have more capabilities, because we have two of the reclosure 2 and 4 that aren't used anymore. So we've got those extras that could eventually be put back into service. So I mean, there's the potential is really there, you know, so. I think this was a really good meeting.
No,
honestly.
Adam?
Susan is, there she is.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.